It's another beautiful Tuesday morning, and this is welcoming you to another edition of a newspaper headlines review on Agate Television. My name is Fanen Kwan. And joining us on the program today is a public affairs analyst, Leonard Ikem. Leonard, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, also with us is a seasoned journalist, TV Akase. TV Akase, it's good to have you again.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, don't forget that the program is streaming live on our socials, talking about YouTube at Agate Radio TV, on Facebook, Agate Radio TV, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and a whole lot of that. All right, so let's get straight. But remember, they said charity begins at home, so we're going to start with our newspaper this morning, Agate News. All right, and the banner headline here says, organ harvesting in Benue worries residents. Organ harvesting in Benue worries residents. Okay, no one knows how much a Nigerian lawmaker earns, and that is coming from an ex-lawmaker. Just above the nameplate, we have Mzo Thief 6 amnesty for repentant bandits. Mzo Thief 6 amnesty for repentant bandits. Benue accounts for 70% of Nigeria's soya beans production. And then we have PDP condemns Governor Alia over inaction on herdsmen attacks on Benue. And just closely related to that is terrorists planning to attack Benue, FCT, Imo, 4 other states. So these are some of the headlines flying on our own newspaper, Agate News. And then I'm going to give you much detail about how you can access detail of these stories later on. But just so we begin the conversation, I'd like us to pick on this one. You know, it has been one issue here in Benue State for over some time, organ harvesting, and it usually occurs during this Yuletide. All right, so organ harvesting in Benue worries residents. Briefly, we are talking about that before we head to other issues, and I'd like to begin with Chief TV Akase. Organ harvesting again and again and again. How do we get to, ascertain that really these organs are harvested, and people go about worrying themselves for nothing?
Well, I think it's a disturbing issue that people have chosen to go into such practices is what I cannot understand. But to deny that these things do not happen is to be crippled fast, like someone wrote in a book. Now, these are realities that have come to be with us. And what is more interesting and what is more important is that there are laws against crime. And it is up to our people to report those who are suspected to be in this kind of practices. Because no society will condone such evil practices. And if it is happening within our shores, within our state, then it's quite... But it's not only in Benue State. This is happening in many other states. And it's worrisome that our people have chosen to go into such practices. And I will encourage Benue people and other people of other states, like neighboring states like Nasarawa, Kogi, Enugu, Taraba, who may be listening to this program, that if you suspect any such incident, report such suspicion to security agencies for them to be able to nip that in the bud. It's quite sad that human life has become worthless in this country, and we are the same Nigerians. So where is our humanity? It's so sad.
All right, Ike, a lot of people would try to, make some justifications that to them may be worthwhile. Saying that maybe the hardship or you taking to make ends meet, they will tell you lack of jobs are responsible for some of these crimes. Is that in any way justifiable?
No, not at all. Just like TV Akase has said, there is no justification whatsoever for indulging into such practices to make a living. You cannot say because there is poverty in the land and you go cutting down another human being for your own personal survival. No. There are laws. Every society is governed by norms. And then we have our constitution is very clear about such practices. The most important thing is to think, where is our humanity? Where is our humanity? Every time we are close to this Yuletide, you have issues of organ harvesting around us. It's quite worrisome.
And even organ snatching.
And organ snatching as well. You know, so it's quite worrisome. So like my friend and my elder brother Teva Kasi said, the right thing to do now is to be watchful, report any suspicion to the proper security outfits or even the village chiefs, because most of the times this thing happens in the markets where we don't have a proper security outposts, you know. So it is good for us to be very, very vigilant to report such cases.
All right, one critical thing we also need to say on the program is that let's not tow the path of jungle justice. If you see anything, then say something to the appropriate authorities. All right, that takes us to the next headline, which is Mzo Tiv seeks amnesty for repentant bandits. TV, I'd like you to comment on this.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing thing. My worry is that there appears not to be sincerity so much on the part of our brothers who are in the bush. They, you know, governments, successive governments have tried, especially the past administration in Benue State, you know, tried the option of amnesty, which former Governor Tom called the carrot and stick approach. Now he deployed the carrot approach, which was the amnesty. The first time he came in, in fact, on the day he was sworn in 2019, he proclaimed that his administration will grant amnesty for those who were willing to embrace it, and eventually it was done. But sadly, some of those people reneged on their promise to embrace peace and be reintegrated in the society. They went back to their caves, went back to their fortresses, so to speak, and took arms against the society again. So that is what I don't understand. You are asking government to grant you amnesty. Now amnesty is granted. The same you who asked. So it will be difficult for government, whether at the federal or state levels, to trust what these people say. You know, sometimes their demands may not be feasible. You know, so, but I am not in government at the moment. I have no idea the terms that our brothers who have taken arms against the society are making. I don't know. I have no idea, knowing the demands they are making to the current government. So perhaps Mzo Tiv is privy to such discussions, and if that is the case, Mzo Tiv is better placed to understand the dynamics of what negotiations are going on between the government, whether at the state level here or at the federal level, because remember that security is a joint thing. So if Mzo Tiv is in the know of these discussions and is making a case for the bandits, sometimes you grant amnesty to these people, they go back. So, but those who are, you know, there now, those who are on the seat now, we better understand which demands they are making and if those demands are realizable. And if that is the case, I have no objection to any roadmap to peace if the amnesty will eventually end hostilities in Sankra axis, especially where a lot of people are being killed by herdsmen, you know, on daily basis, who are, you know, in collaboration with some local bandits. You know, then if that will bring peace to that area, that, you know, Sankra is a very, very critical, very important part of this state. That is the food basket of Benue State. So if our farmers there can be guaranteed peace for them to return to their farms, it will be better for Benue, it will be better for Nigeria.
So now we move to business, and Ike, I understand you have some business links, and I would like you to comment on this. Benue accounts for 70% of Nigeria's soya beans production, and this is coming from the National Open University of Nigeria's VC, as the Vice Chancellor there. All right, so quickly comment on this before we proceed to other issues.
Well, I don't know the parameters he used. I was saying that Benue accounts for about 70% of soybean production in Nigeria. I have been privy to work for Taraba State government as a consultant in the informal sector, especially revenue generation in that regard. I can tell you that we don't produce up to half of what we produce in Taraba State. I am not privy to the information at his disposal to make him make that decision. But I think that a lot needs to be done, especially like the issue of herdsmen attack and the insecurity in our villages. I don't see us even going up to even 30% of the soybean production. I'm very much sure. When I was in Taraba in 2015, 2016, 17, Olan was there. And they were supposed to pay some levies for those goods they loaded, especially soybeans. 1 week, Olan was picking almost about 300 to 400 trucks. You can't get that here. Well, if you pick 200 to 300 trucks here, you have no seed of soybeans remaining in the state. Let us not be confused about the issue of loading points and offloading points. We have so many companies here, like the Nigerian Flour Mills, which is presently at the silos, very close to Tewasa, Badojo's quarters here. So soybeans is being brought from Nasarawa, Plateau, and Taraba to Nigerian Flour Mills here. You know, they have a very big depot here. So if we are taking soybean in larger quantity from other states, and then we are claiming that we are producing more than 70% of that, I don't think is correct. But like I said, I'm not privy to the information that made him come up with such statistics, but for sure, we are not doing up to that.
All right, you did mention certain, parameters that should be put in place for, for us to step up production of soya beans. But I'd like you to specifically stress them, bring them out for everywhere, policy makers and then the general. So what do you think can step up our game in soya beans production?
The major problem of farming generally in Benue State is insecurity. We don't have much lands in the cities. Where we have lands is in the villages, where the farmers, the herders are daggers drawn with the farmers. If you go to Goma, which with a very large land, you hardly see farmers there. And then if you go to Naka, there's one trend now that if you need to go to your farm, you need to pay security to escort you there. Not many people have such money to do that. I spoke with one of my friends who did rice farming at Naka. He told me that every week they pay 1.6 million naira to security agencies to escort them to those places to go and where they farm. So insecurity is the major challenge. The other factors are also like the provision of herbicides, fertilizers are just secondary factors. The major factor is the insecurity that is eating us up. The same thing if you go to Ikone local government, more than half of the farming places have been sacked. You have more than like Turan, which is a part of Ikone local government. The whole about 3 or 4 wards, half of them are sacked, and these are farming areas. So the major problem of agriculture in Benue State is insecurity at the moment.
Insecurity. So still talking about that, there is a headline here coming from the PDP, and it says PDP condemns Governor Aliya over inaction on herdsmen attacks on Benue. And then closely related to that, terrorists planning to attack Benue, FCT, Imo, 4 other states. These issues all border on insecurity. So, TV, I'd like you to quickly react to this before we proceed.
Well, it's a clarion call. It's a call that should not be waved aside on the, on account of politics. The PDP is a stakeholder in the Nigerian polity, in the Nigerian project, in the Benue project, if we bring it home here. Now, that is what the opposition does. The opposition looks at issues that are affecting the society and criticizes government, constructively, that this is what should be done. And if government fails to do that, the opposition keeps the government on its toes. So what the PDP has done here, for me, that is what is supposed to be done, calling on government to ensure that the right thing is done. So if that criticism for me is constructive, that the government of the day in the state should not treat with levity, should not look at insecurity as just an ordinary thing or business as usual. Fold up your sleeves and get to work. Security and welfare, especially security. The Nigerian Constitution makes it mandatory that government at all levels must provide security for the people. The second thing is welfare. Those are the only two things that the Constitution is very, very clear. The Constitution is unambiguous that governments must ensure that the people go to their bed with two eyes closed. Now, you may be providing infrastructure, you may be providing water, you may be paying salaries and all pensions and everything. But if security is not on the front burner of that government, then the government is failing in its constitutional duty. So, for me, politics aside, what the PDP has done with that call is patriotic, it is timely, and it is very, very crucial that the government of the state, in addition to the other things it is doing, should address insecurity head on, should take on insecurity as a matter of life and death. Because our people are dying. People the food basket is becoming empty. Like Ikem said, our farmers can no longer access their farms. In fact, in some communities, you have to give money to armed headers, to terrorists, for them to allow you to go and bury your dead. If you have you've lost a loved one, and you have to take him or her to your community for burial, then you have to pay money to headers who are in the bush for them to allow you access your village to bury somebody. This is so sad. It's unacceptable. So while we may commend the government of the day for the things it's doing, it should take insecurity, it should take security as the first thing. It should be the first thing. In fact, a governor can hold even 3-4 security meetings in a week, because there is a security council whose chairman is the governor, and in his absence, the deputy. They should be sitting with all the security commanders, the DSS, the director of the state, the commander of the army here, Operation Wellstroke if they are still here, civil defense head, police commissioner. Those are members of the security council. A governor should meet with them periodically. In fact, he can meet with them even 4 times if it's possible. Because security cannot wait. The people cannot wait. The people deserve. And it is a matter of right in this matter.
Okay, now these are some of the stories on Agate News, a very own newspaper here. So if you wish to check more about the stories we've analyzed and even more other stories, you can visit our website on www.agateradio.tv.com. You can check your screen for that website so that you read more about these stories. Moving on, we take on the Vanguard newspaper. LCCI Asbon analyst, others pick holes in 2025 budget with a rider. It will take magic wand to succeed. Asbon funding will be a challenge. Financial analyst. All right. So, and just above the name plate. Dangote Refinery $6 billion to import crude. Dangote Refinery $6 billion to import crude. Sit at home. Gunmen kill 5 security operatives. PG critically injured in Anambra, Abia. Nigeria must address 6% tax to GDP ratio. And this is coming from Speaker Abbas. Presidency to Obasanjo. Nigeria's economic woes begun in your government. I am presidential spokesperson. That's coming from Daniel Bola. All right. So these are some of the headlines we have in the Punch newspaper this morning. All right. We are going to start our analysis with in this newspaper with the banner headline, which is LCCI Osborne analysts and others pick holes in the 2025 budget. All right, just before we do that, the Federal Executive Council has had approved a budget of 4.9 trillion naira for the 2025 fiscal year, executing capital projects and managing the federal government's recurrent expenditures. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, disclosed this in a briefing to State House media after the meeting. All right, so the figure is 47.9 trillion naira. All right, so I'd like to start with you, Ike, on this. All right, so what do you make the whole out of this? Because first of all, they are talking about it's a magic way to be a magic wand to succeed with this kind of budget, and then they're also talking about the challenge of funding in the whole budget process. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, my major problem with our executive officers in budgeting is.
All right, just before that, TV, I'd like you to quickly.
Well, AKM began on a good note. Just to add that, the issue with budgeting in Nigeria is that budgets have more or less, or if you will, appropriation bills or appropriation laws when they are passed. They have become like rituals that the federal government and states just know that this is an annual ritual. But I will allow AKM to complete his thoughts, and I will come in. I think he's good to go now.
All right, Ike.
Yeah, like I was saying, the major thing with our government today, our executives today, is just announcing figures. What is budgeting? It needs to do with our recurrent and our capital expenditure and anticipated revenue to come in. Now, what is the recurrent expenditure of Nigeria? We need to ascertain these facts. If we must do a realistic budget, then we must know what is our recurrent expenditure. Then we will now know what we are projecting to spend in the capital expenditure. In the recurrent expenditure, where you have salaries, overheads, pensions, and then you have debt servicing. So we are not realistic people. We just bring out figures. Every ministry or parastatal will just bring their own figures. It is put there and then announced. Now, the major problem is that how are we going? How are we going to practicalize what we budget for? If, for instance, budget is a very serious business. If my school is budgeting 50,000 naira for a term, I should know that my recurrent expenditure is either 15,000, and then my capital expenditure is about maybe 10,000. But then I should know exactly what. If you subtract the budgeted amount from the recurrent expenditure, you should have the capital, the remaining money as capital to work with. I don't know the situation. I don't know the situation at hand, where not only the federal government, state governments come up with figures. We don't know precisely what those figures are meant for. You are talking about a budget of 47 point something trillion, and then you are talking about having issues about production or even your major source of income, which is the crude oil. You are having issues to even manage your internal sources that can generate this revenue. So I don't know. In the end, like the LCCI and have some faults. In the end, the whole of this budget will be financed by loans. We are still heading, what we are seeing, we are still heading to where Nigeria will be soliciting for loans to finance the 2025 budget.
I think with new borrowings of 9.2 trillion naira to finance the budget deficit in 2025. That's the rate.
That is what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right, David, I'd like you to begin.
Yes.
Start from here. The projection is that the budget is going to be to an exchange rate of 1,400 naira per dollar. And what is dollar right now?
And not just that, what those organizations are faulting is that includes that, and they are also saying that the budget is too good to be, it is too sweet to hear. It's too good to listen to.
Believe,
You don't just tell us that, oh, this is beautiful. Well, we are 47.9 trillion. I mean, this is the outlook for 2025. How is it realistic? Now the projection is that now the budget is projected at naira 1,400 to $1, but the naira is in the region of 1,700 as where now. So how are you going to bring it down?
Magic wand.
That is why they said it looks like that there's no magic wand. So you have to be realistic. You are looking at inflation now. Nigeria's inflation rate has risen to 33 point something percent. Now you are projecting at 15% inflation rate. How are you going to bring inflation down to 15%? What are the barometers for doing that? The budget has failed to tell us all of these things. So that is why those organizations are saying this is like a lullaby. This is too sweet, like a song you sing to a child to lure it to sleep at night. It's not realizable. Tell us something that we can believe and hold on to, that this is what can happen. But I was talking about budgets becoming mere ceremonies in this country. Now, when the year is ending, that is, you see this competition that states and the federal government, a president trying to meet the end of year deadline of sending, some even send budgets in September for the coming year, when you have not implemented 32% of the current budget, which is still being implemented. And we are never told, the federal government has never told us how much of that budget in the outgoing year has been implemented, and those indices, the indicators, are never shown us. So it shouldn't just be a ceremony of you go to the National Assembly and speak beautiful English and all of that.
All right, TV, we want to take a break at the moment, and then when we come back, we'll still talk about the economy before we proceed to other issues. You're still watching Agate Television. Stay tuned.
That's a very difficult question because I spent 14 years there. Nevertheless, I think my best 11 would include Samuel Adingingo, number 2, John Agu, Number 3, Afioma Sylvester. Number 4, Felix Pilakia. Number 5, Samuel Elijah. Number 6, Benedict Ogu, alias Rugede. Number 7,
You're welcome back. You'll see on to Newspaper Headlines Review on Agate Television. It's a combined broadcast with Agate Radio. And with us on the program today is a public affairs analyst, Leonard Ikem, and a seasoned journalist, TV Akase. So Akase, before we took that break, you were talking about the budget. But just before we move on, rethink reform strategies. IMF advises Nigeria, Ghana, and others. You know, someone had, I think the former chairman, national chairman of INEC had advised Nigeria that they should rethink about taking advices from IMF and the World Bank in implementing, you know, strategies in the country. All right, most of these strategies were borrowed from the IMF and World Bank, and then now the IMF are coming back to say rethink. So why is it?
Ikem talked about we becoming a joke, something like that. Now, when I read this story, I was shocked. It's like Nigeria has become I don't want to use the word errand boy. That is not an acceptable word for our country. But why would IMF, the World Bank, be playing the head prefect role to a country and say, now it's like, okay, the reforms you have introduced, this is the interpretation of what the IMF is telling Nigeria. The reforms you have introduced are really causing pain to your people. So go back and tell them good things, tell them sweet nothings, things that will make the people happy. Now, IMF is recommending that the Tinubu administration should meet with stakeholders, opinion holders. You remember Obasanjo went very hard on President Tinubu recently, a few days ago. And I saw the presidential response this yesterday and this morning.
Economic wars
Good.
began in your government.
Good. Now, IMF is now saying engage the likes of Obasanjo and Jonathan and others who are likely to be so hard on you, and whatever they say, the world will believe. Now, I will come to that Obasanjo statement later. But what IMF is doing and saying is completely unacceptable in the eyes of some of us. IMF should not be like the one remote controlling the Nigerian government. No, it's unacceptable. We are an independent, a sovereign nation, ruled, governed by a constitution. We shouldn't be taking directives from an international body, even if, yes, they say the one who pays the piper dictates the tune. But in this case, Nigeria has its resources that it draws its wealth from. So we cannot afford to be taking directives from IMF and the World Bank. You are telling our government to come and talk to opinion holders like Obasanjo, meet with them. You know, I think they only fell short of saying give them money, so that they will not talk. But if we see something wrong, we owe our country the duty of speaking out and saying this is wrong. People are suffering in this country. Nigerians are angry. And the IMF has the guts. They introduced these reforms, for goodness sake. And they now have the guts to come see us in the face and spit in our faces and tell our government to come talk to our opinion leaders so that they will not talk again. This is unacceptable, and I hope that someone will have the courage to call the bluff of the IMF and whoever is there calling those shots. It's really sad, and I feel so sad.
EKMC talking about the economy. Dangote refinery $6 billion to import crude. We are still here.
That is where the problem is. We are producing crude here. We thought that, I wrote one story about last week about how we are fighting the dollar exchange to naira, and I was saying that our country is just playing to the glory. If not, we are producing crude here. I think Dangote, we heard, so I think about 3 or 4 months, the president directing NNPC to sell crude to Dangote in naira. Now, Dangote is seeking for dollars to go and to import crude to Nigeria, putting more pressure on the naira and devaluing it in the international market. What do you expect? Naira will keep on going down. The depreciation will continue to go very high, because you see, why are we not selling crude to our local refinery that has just picked up in our local currency? There's so much to it. Just like Akase has said, the major problem of this country is allowing other people to toy with our sovereignty. The directives, pieces of advice were taken from international organizations like the IMF. I don't know whether this is also part of their advice, because everyone is shocked that Dangote is still looking for billions of dollars to import crude, where in a fair economy, Nigeria should be giving him crude in our local currency to reduce the pressure on the dollar, thereby increasing the value of naira in the foreign market. So it's quite surprising.
Akase, briefly, what do you think this importation, the implications of this importation on ordinary Nigerians?
You mean the crude?
Yes.
We have been on it for many years. We have been on it, and the only way out of it. But someone even said Nigeria's oil is no longer in the hands of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? So, but we have been on this importation for years, and that's those issues of fuel subsidy, no fuel subsidy. It's a matter of is it syntax or whatever? The grammar of it. The truth is that someone even said that Nigeria does not know how the amount of oil that is gotten from the oil wells of this country, and I have not seen anyone take on that, challenge that assertion. So importation for me shouldn't be there in the first place. If Nigeria had kept its refineries running, and if we had built new refineries, we shouldn't be going to buy oil from overseas. What are we buying oil? We are one of the major OPEC members, where Nigeria is one of the major oil producers in the world. So if we cannot refine our oil, then something is wrong. But it is because someone is benefiting from importation. That is why the refineries must not work. If someone were not benefiting from importation of crude oil or importation of petroleum products in general, then those refineries would have been fixed and new ones built. We wouldn't be talking. We will not be celebrating Dangote refinery at this moment. But because there was sabotage over the years in the system, because people were benefiting, people in high places were benefiting from importation, so they encouraged the malfunctioning, the comatose nature of those refineries, and new ones could not be built. Quite unfortunate.
That takes us to This Day newspaper, and This Day has a banner headline: Presidency Obasanjo not ideal leader to emulate, unfit to speak on good governance. There's a triple rider here, accuses his government of brazen illegality, assault on constitution through illegal removal of governors. Says he made poor choices in economic management, which burdens successive governments. Maintains he organized sham elections in 2003, judged the worst in nation's history. All right, another headline, governors threatening us over Tinubu's tax reform bills, House members allege. With a rider, Oyedele, no region is targeted in tax reform. And then above the nameplate, LCCI parameters, assumptions for 2025, proposed budget over ambitious, fragile. With a rider, a doom. Tinubu working to lift Nigerians out of poverty. All right, so we've talked about most of these stories here, but we want to look at the governors threatening us over Tinubu's tax reform bills, and I'd like this to go to Ikem.
Yeah, the major problem about taxation is that it favors only those who are active. I am not surprised that governors will not be in sync with the new tax reform that the president wants to bring on board, because most of our states, at least even their own sustain their governance on even their own just their own overheads on their intergenerated revenue, the federation's account, they will be able to even pay one ministry. One, they don't even know what they get. Now the tax reform, if elsewhere is done, we're a developing nation, and we expect that as time moves on, there should be reforms. There are certain revenue sources that we need to harness. There are some that we feel that become obsolete. We need to allow them go. There are some. There are certain things we need to even overtax to discourage their existence. Like the issue of tobacco. If you don't want people to be smoking tobacco, you place more taxes on it. Now, on the whole, I don't feel there is any need for governors to threaten anybody about the new tax reform. I feel that if they have anything to contribute to reshape the reforms, let them do, because our tax system truly needs to be reformed. So I don't see the member who has alleged that the governors are attacking them or they're threatening them has not come out very clearly to tell us who the governors are. At the same time, has not been able to tell us the kind of attacks they are receiving. So I may not say much into that, but I will tell you that most governors don't want tax reformation. They want. That is why when it comes to even the issue of restructuring, tactically, most governors are feeling that, especially northern governors, are feeling that the tax reform is restructuring Nigeria in one way or the other, and they are against this. What they want is keep idle, sit idle, and get more from the federal account without looking inwards.
Moving on, the Punch newspaper comes next.
Yeah, I was going to comment. Sorry, I was going to comment on this Obasanjo and the federal government saga. You know, President Obasanjo. Why I will not agree with him is I don't like our elder statesmen going to international fora or going to platforms that are beyond our shores to castigate Nigeria, to expose the weaknesses of Nigeria. President Obasanjo is a three-time leader of this country. He was military head of state, became president, and did two terms. That makes him three-time leader of this country. He is a father of the country. Not many of his age mates are alive today. So God has been very, very, very gracious, very, very, listen to him. So I expect him to be sending memos to leaders of this country, to the presidents, successive presidents. God has blessed him to live so long. If he has an issue, he can seek an appointment with Mr. President. He's a member of the National the Council of States and all those other organizations where that platform where past presidents meet with the current president and so on. He can always, his advice can always be taken. So I disagree with him going to send a message about Nigeria's weaknesses, Nigeria's failings on a platform in the United States. That I do not agree. Now, I also do not agree with President Tinubu's spokesman for
just a minute.
attacking Obasanjo. Yes.
Before you flow the side of President, the presidency, as it's
Yes.
usually called,
Mm.
don't you? Someone will argue that in the past administration of President Buhari, Obasanjo had engaged several letter writings, or rather, he was criticized. Don't you think that is the reason why
they were all open letters?
Okay.
They were open letters. A former president has unhindered access to the president. And good thing, Obasanjo has retired from politics. He told the world, he told Nigerians that he was leaving partisan politics. So no one will accuse him of speaking for the opposition or speaking for the ruling party anymore. He's no longer a politician as far as Nigeria is concerned. So he should have unhindered access to whoever is the sitting president. And if he has misgivings, if he has things that he senses that are going wrong, he should. Obasanjo can tell any president face to face that, Mr. President, this is wrong. What you are doing, from my experience, and even with the benefit of hindsight, I can advise you that this and this and this, we tried this and we failed. By the way, Obasanjo's reforms are so far the best since Nigeria was established.
Yeah.
Apart from Murtala Mohammed, who didn't live long and started aggressive reforms that could have saved Nigeria from a lot of problems that we have today. The only president that brought reforms to Nigeria that Nigerians are happy. Look at even the introduction of EFCC, the introduction of ICPC, and many other reforms. Due process, what began as the Servicom, right?
Yeah.
What we call due process. There are laws on due process, laws on fiscal responsibility. That is discipline in financing. I mean, financial discipline in governance. Obasanjo introduced all of these things. So Obasanjo deserves respect from anybody. But I don't agree with him for going to deliver a lecture in the USA and attacking a country that he helped to build. That is not correct. He should have sent a letter to the president, and if that letter was not replied, he could now have gone public.
All right.
To say that, look, he has written several letters to the president, he has sought to see the president and discuss these things with him, share his experiences with him, but he was denied access. That would have been justified. But for him to do that, that's wrong. But I do not agree with the presidency attacking Obasanjo. Yeah. That is really unacceptable. Obasanjo is above such pedestrian attack. Obasanjo is one of, we are lucky to have him alive, okay? He's a respected African. Anywhere Obasanjo goes on this continent, he's respected, and even beyond Africa. So whoever you are speaking for the president, you do not have that right to take your pen and write rubbish against the name of Obasanjo. If he's wrong, tell him, sir, you are wrong here. This is where you're wrong. This is what the president is saying. But to say that Obasanjo is not the ideal leader to criticize a government, that is also wrong. Obasanjo is, apart from his third term ambition, apart from his, although he denied it, that he didn't tell anyone he was going for third term, but we know that he attempted it. Apart from his third term ambition, Obasanjo would have been celebrated as one of the best African leaders ever. But that third term, whatever came over his government, I don't know. But that third term ambition really affecting his people.
Okay, that brings us to the last paper of the edition, because we do not have much time on our side. Okay, presidency attacks OBJ as opposition backs ex-president. And this is coming from the Punch newspaper. All right, just above the name, 170 to $10,000 fines. It's coming from the NCAA, that's for air travelers. Default 34 states, FCT shun 263 billion naira UBEC grants. Okay, and Senate, just beside the nameplate, Senate invites top doctors over strike. We have on the international scene, Trump plans to use military for mass deportation. And I think we need to talk about this brief cross, over the shores of Nigeria to talk about this issue before we finally call it a quit on the program. So, I don't know. You may like to.
Yeah, the presidency attacks Obasanjo as opposition, backs ex-president. It's the same thing with what Akase just said. Either ways, two wrongs cannot make it right. Yeah, Obasanjo as a citizen of this country has the right to talk. Yeah, as a former president, he tried his best. And then he's also a citizen of this country, he can speak. And like Akase said, for the presidency attacking Obasanjo in such a demeaning manner, it is not right.
So you equally do not agree.
It is. I don't agree with that.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Akase, you would like to react to Trump plans to use military for mass deportation. Trump has started.
I would advise, if I were to advise, I would appeal to the U.S. president, the incoming president, Donald Trump, to wait till he takes over. He doesn't have such powers yet until January, I think January 20 or thereabout, that he
it's a plan though.
will be sworn in. So he shouldn't rock the boat yet. When the mantle is handed over to him, it will be Trump's America at that time, and then he can. But he should also remember that America is guided by the Constitution. So no president is more powerful than the American Constitution. And if you are wrong, the American people will tell you that, Mr. President, you are wrong. This is America. No one is above our country. So the President Trump, I supported him. I am one of his fans. And I am happy that he won this election, because I believe, apart from the issues of faith and the issues of morality that Trump upholds, that holds dear to his chest, which I support so much, Trump is one president who is practical. If he says he will do this, he signs that and I shows you that, look, I have signed it and this is going to happen. So I love Trump, and but I will appeal that he should calm down a little bit until he takes over.
Thank you very much, TV Akase. All right, I'd like to appreciate you so much, Leonard Ikem, public affairs analyst, for being on the program. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, TV Akase, for your thoughts on the program.
It's my pleasure always.
Oh, dear viewers and listeners, this is our program for today. Don't forget to join us next week Tuesday for another interesting edition of Newspaper Headlines Review. By the way, our socials are still active for you to follow us anytime, any day. Thank you.